Envision waking up to discover that societal bedrock is subtly fracturing before your very eyes. Consider the increasing superficiality of conversations. Reflect on how entertainment increasingly favors noise over substance, and how individuals tend to know more about celebrities than they do about the forces shaping their own existence. Have you observed that despite residing in an era of boundless information, genuine insight feels progressively scarce? Today, we will delve into a troubling yet captivating inquiry. Why is society seemingly becoming duller by the day? More importantly, what actions can we take to address this? Remain with me until the very conclusion, as the ultimate revelation I intend to share holds paramount importance and possesses the capacity to completely reframe your perception of the contemporary world. Before we proceed to a deeper exploration, ensure you subscribe to this channel, give this video a like, share it with someone you care about, and express your thoughts on the current state of society in the comments section. Your perspective is valuable, and by engaging in this discourse, you become a part of a collective endeavor to emerge from the haze of mediocrity and reclaim the precision of genuine thought. Now, let us commence. To comprehend why society appears to be descending into a chasm of superficiality, we must first confront an unpalatable actuality. The very instruments intended to advance human understanding, technology, social media, widespread education, are frequently utilized in ways that diminish our intellect rather than sharpen it. Ponder this paradox. Humanity has at its disposal the most extensive library ever conceived, a greater sum of knowledge than all prior generations combined. Yet research indicates shrinking attention spans, a decline in critical thinking faculties, and an increasing difficulty for people to distinguish between veracity and falsehoods. It is as if, in the rush to absorb information, society has forgotten how to process it. Philosophers and psychologists warned us of this peril long ago. The German philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche spoke of the last man, a future individual who eschews depth, prioritizes comfort, and evades anything demanding profound thought. Does this not resonate disturbingly with our current epoch, where convenience frequently eclipses wisdom? Similarly, Neil Postman, in his pivotal work Amusing Ourselves to Death, foretold a cultural landscape where amusement would become the prism through which all reality is perceived, reducing even the most grave matters to spectacles engineered to capture fleeting seconds of attention. But what has fueled this acceleration in recent years? One contributing factor lies in how our brains react to stimuli. The psychologist Daniel Kahneman, who investigated the dual processes of cognition, explained that humans preferentially choose the path of least resistance. We gravitate towards swift, effortless answers instead of deliberate, step-by-step reasoning. The issue is that modern society is structured to exploit this inherent vulnerability. Social media platforms, advertising, and even political discourse are tailored to provoke emotional responses rather than foster profound contemplation. In such an environment, foolishness is not merely coincidental, it is deliberately engineered. Consider the proliferation of viral trends, memes, and sound bites that saturate online discussions. They spread not due to their accuracy, but because they are simplistic and emotionally charged. Contrast this with the operation of ancient wisdom traditions. In Plato's Academy, students dedicated years to grappling with complex questions, engaging in debate, and refining their comprehension. In stark contrast, today's public sphere frequently rewards those who vociferously assert themselves, not those who engage in the deepest intellectual inquiry. Ask yourself, when was the last occasion you encountered a trending video or news headline that genuinely compelled you to critically examine life, society, or ethics? How often do you encounter content designed to prompt thoughtful deliberation, as opposed to the incessant torrent of distractions intended to keep you endlessly scrolling? This represents the contemporary tragedy, an abundance of data coupled with a scarcity of sagacity. The ramifications are extensive. When individuals lose the capacity for deep thought, they become more susceptible to manipulation. Observe how misinformation propagates more rapidly than truth online. Studies from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology have demonstrated that fabricated news travels significantly faster and further on social media than verified facts. Why? Because falsehoods are often crafted to be sensational and emotionally compelling, whereas truth necessitates subtlety, patience, and context. And in a society addicted to speed, nuance is the first casualty. This is not solely a matter of individual ignorance. It signifies a collective regression. As public discourse deteriorates, entire communities risk forfeiting their capacity for rational debate. Politics devolves into tribal shouting matches. Education prioritizes standardized test performance over the cultivation of wisdom. Entertainment glorifies outrage, scandal, and spectacle. In essence, our civilization is starting to value superficiality over depth, immediate gratification over lasting significance. Yet, even within this rather bleak outlook, a potential for growth exists. Acknowledging a decline can be the crucial first step towards rejuvenation. By grasping the forces that steer society towards intellectual decline, we can begin to counteract them. Through revitalizing the practices of independent thought, contemplation, and meaningful dialogue, we can transcend the prevalent noise and recover the clarity that previously guided human advancement. The true test, however, lies in the resolve required for this journey. It demands the boldness to challenge prevailing popular opinions, to resist the alluring pull of distractions, and to cultivate a mindset capable of independent discernment. As the French philosopher René Descartes once stated, the greatest minds are capable of the greatest vices as well as of the greatest virtues. The very tools contributing to societal intellectual regression can also be leveraged for its elevation, but only if we consciously opt for this path. This choice ultimately begins with each individual. Take a moment to consider your daily information consumption habits. Do you find yourself endlessly scrolling through your phone, moving from one post to another with minimal retention? Do you primarily rely on headlines, short snippets, and quick summaries to form your perspectives on intricate matters? If so, you're not alone. This is the default behavior our society is being conditioned into, and it's a primary reason why genuine intelligence is being supplanted by constant distraction. The Canadian psychologist Steven Pinker has extensively documented how the human brain adapts to its surroundings. When continuously bombarded by brief bursts of content, our minds adjust by craving brevity, often at the expense of substantive understanding. This implies that complex reasoning, in-depth reading, and patient learning become less innate. What was once a mental faculty strengthened through regular exercise is now at risk of diminishing. The outcome is a populace that can process vast quantities of superficial data, but struggles to engage with anything demanding sustained concentration. This transformation is not merely individual, but also cultural. Historically, civilizations revered the roles of wisdom keepers, philosophers, educators, and elders who dedicated themselves to comprehending the human condition and transmitting insights. Today, these figures are frequently overshadowed by influencers whose primary objective is engagement, not truth. Algorithms prioritize widespread appeal over profound thought. Consequently, society increasingly conflates popularity with wisdom, overlooking the fact that one doesn't automatically imply the other. Reflect on the operational methods of contemporary educational systems. In numerous nations, schools have shifted towards standardized assessments and rote memorization, leaving scant room for critical inquiry or imaginative thinking. The philosopher John Dewey famously asserted, quote, "Yet modern schooling frequently reduces learning to a series of checkboxes, training students not to think autonomously, but to perform well on examinations." This has significant ramifications for how entire generations approach problem-solving and independent thought. When individuals are conditioned to seek immediate answers, they become less tolerant of ambiguity. However, ambiguity is precisely where wisdom often originates. The psychologist Carl Jung emphasized that genuine personal growth stems from confronting internal contradictions, embracing one's shadow self, and navigating the tension between opposing forces. But in a culture fixated on simplicity, there is little patience for such depth. We prefer certainty, even if it is misleading, to complexity that demands intellectual exertion. This craving for certainty has been exploited. Politicians, advertisers, and media organizations all recognize that the average person is more readily influenced by confident, simplistic declarations than by meticulously reasoned, nuanced arguments. As a result, society is inundated with slogans instead of genuine ideas, with sound bites instead of comprehensive philosophies. The consequence is not merely a simplification of public discourse, but an undermining of democracy itself. A populace incapable of critical thought is effortlessly manipulated. Let's consider this for a moment. How often have you observed people passionately debating online about subjects they clearly have limited understanding of? How frequently do we encounter comments filled with anger and conviction, but devoid of evidence or meaningful reflection? This is the byproduct of a society that values unwavering confidence more than actual competence. The illusion of knowledge, as Stephen Hawking cautioned, becomes more perilous than mere ignorance. But perhaps the most unsettling aspect of this decline is the erosion of collective memory. In bygone eras, cultures preserved their wisdom through narratives, traditions, and texts that spanned generations. Today, digital media overwhelms us with new content every second, much of which disappears just as rapidly. What was trending yesterday is swiftly forgotten tomorrow. The Spanish intellectual George Santana famously observed, "Those who are unable to recall the past are bound to relive it." In an era fixated on novelty, history's lessons often lose their relevance, fading amidst the constant clamor of newness. However, even in this challenging climate, hope perdures. If mental stagnation spreads through habits of inattention and superficiality, then intellectual growth can be nurtured through practices of contemplation and thoroughness. We possess the agency to opt for content that stimulates thought rather than dulling our senses. We can cultivate the practices of deliberate reading, attentive listening, and meaningful conversation. These choices transcend mere personal preference. They represent acts of resistance against a culture that thrives on our passivity. A straightforward yet potent exercise involves reclaiming silence. The Danish philosopher Søren Kierkegaard cautioned that constant activity and noise hinder true self-knowledge. In our contemporary world, quietude feels almost revolutionary. Within stillness, we can introspect, analyze, and reconnect with our deeper selves. By embracing moments of calm, we counteract the relentless pressure to react and rediscover our capacity for profound thought. Another valuable habit is persistent questioning. Socrates, widely regarded as the cornerstone of Western philosophy, built his entire methodology on posing inquiries rather than supplying definitive answers. Imagine the transformative impact if society were to revert to this mindset. Instead of rushing to conclusions, we could pause to consider, what is the basis for this belief? Who benefits from my holding this view? What evidence supports it? Such inquiries can penetrate the fog of misinformation, compelling us to engage with reality in a more authentic manner. Yet, an uncomfortable truth emerges. Independent thought is challenging. It often entails solitude, requiring one to step away from the mainstream. It can be painful, forcing in confrontation with previously held illusions. Nevertheless, it is precisely this inherent difficulty that magnifies its worth. As the German philosopher Immanuel Kant asserted, "Dare to know, have the courage to use your own understanding." This encapsulates the spirit of enlightenment and retains its urgency today, just as it did in Kant's era. Now, take a moment to reflect. Are your daily habits strengthening or weakening your mind? Do you nourish your intellect with wisdom and introspection, or do you allow yourself to be swept away by the current of distraction? Your answer to this pivotal question determines whether you contribute to the problem or become part of the solution. This leads us to a more profound revelation, one that might be unsettling but is crucial to grasp. Societal thoughtlessness is not merely accidental or inevitable. It serves a purpose. When individuals are distracted, unreflective, and fragmented, they become easier to manipulate. The erosion of wisdom isn't just a cultural trend. It's also a mechanism of power. If the decline of critical thinking is not just a coincidence, but also advantageous to those in authority, then we must ask who stands to gain from a populace that is preoccupied, misinformed, and intellectually weakened. The answer, although discomforting, is clear. Political figures, corporations, and media conglomerates all profit from a population that refrains from deep thought. A society engrossed in entertainment and noise is less inclined to challenge authority, less likely to contest injustice, and less prone to demand change. Consider this. When people spend countless hours immersed in trivial distractions, their capacity for serious contemplation wanes. When disagreements devolve into shouting matches, genuine dialogue disappears. When citizens prioritize the lives of celebrities over their civic responsibilities, democracy itself begins to falter. The Roman poet Juvenal aptly described this phenomenon centuries ago with the phrase, quote, "7 leaders appease the populace by providing food and entertainment, diverting their attention from corruption and decline." Does this not bear a striking resemblance to our present world, where endless streams of content keep us passive, while more profound crises unfold unnoticed? The French philosopher Michel Foucault contended that power often operates not through overt force, but through subtle systems of control that mold how individuals think and behave. In our time, one of the most potent control mechanisms is the manipulation of attention. Social media platforms, for instance, are meticulously engineered to capture and retain your focus. Every notification, every __quote_8__, every endless scroll is designed to hijack your brain's reward system. And the more we become distracted, the less capable we are of critical thought. But let us delve deeper. This erosion of intelligence extends beyond mere distraction. It also fosters division. When people are fragmented against each other, they are unable to unite against the forces that exploit them. And what more effective way to divide a society than by encouraging shallow thinking and emotional reactivity? Misinformation flourishes in such environments, and outrage spreads far more rapidly than understanding. Rather than delving into intricate analyses, superficial labels are readily embraced. Individuals cling to their group allegiances instead of participating in rational discussions. Christopher Lasch, an American historian, noted that modern society frequently advocates for self-absorption, a preoccupation with oneself, external appearances, and immediate gratification. In such an environment, collective wisdom diminishes because people are too absorbed in their own vanity to confront humanity's larger problems. When a society becomes narcissistic, the pursuit of validation supplants the quest for truth. And in a world of likes, shares, and followers, validation is effortlessly acquired. Consider how frequently public figures are celebrated, not for their insight, but for their boisterousness. How often do influencers amass millions of followers through exaggeration, provocation, or sensationalism, rather than by offering profound insights? This isn't merely a cultural peculiarity. It signifies a system that prioritizes attention over veracity. And when attention becomes the ultimate currency of power, foolishness becomes lucrative. This elucidates Noam Chomsky's observation that propaganda parallels violence in a dictatorship as it relates to democracy. If you can dictate what individuals focus on, you can steer their thoughts, desires, and fears. The simplest method to control attention is to condense complex realities into simplistic narratives that appeal to emotions rather than logic. However, let us not attribute this solely to external factors. It also originates internally. Each instance we opt for diversion over profoundness, each time we favor certainty over intricacy, we contribute to this erosion. The reality is that society grows less intelligent not only because of corrupt leaders or manipulative corporations, but because individuals relinquish their capacity for critical thought. Yet, a crucial truth emerges here. The very forces that weaken society also illuminate the path to its revitalization. If foolishness proliferates through distraction, then wisdom can be retrieved through concentration. If manipulation thrives on division, then understanding can be reconstructed through unity. If superficiality dominates culture, then depth can once again be revolutionary. This, however, demands bravery, the courage to resist the facile route. Ponder the words of Viktor Frankl, the psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor, who in Man's Search for Meaning wrote that there exists a space between stimulus and response, and within that space resides our freedom to choose. In a society engineered to elicit immediate reactions, the act of pausing, contemplating, and making deliberate choices is an act of defiance, and indeed, an act of liberation. So, how do we begin to counteract the surge of foolishness threatening to overwhelm us? The initial stride is awareness. You must recognize the numerous ways your own attention is being manipulated. Ask yourself, why am I absorbing this information? Does it enlighten me or merely distract me? Who benefits from me accepting this narrative? Awareness is the genesis of wisdom. Without it, we are like sleepwalkers in a world designed to keep us oblivious. The subsequent step is discipline. Intelligence doesn't develop by chance, it is nurtured. This entails making conscious decisions about what you consume through reading, watching, and listening. It means seeking out perspectives that challenge your beliefs rather than those that simply reinforce them. It involves engaging with books that demand effort instead of mindlessly scrolling through endless streams of superficial content. Discipline may not be glamorous, but it is indispensable if you aspire to rise above the clamor. The third step is discourse. Humans become more insightful within a community, but only if that community is dedicated to truth. In our current era, conversations frequently devolve into conflict. Nevertheless, genuine dialogue, listening with candor, questioning with modesty, sharing with sincerity, possesses the power to sharpen our intellect and broaden our perspectives. The philosopher Martin Buber articulated the _9_ relationship, where we encounter the other, not as an object to be debated or utilized, but as a being to be comprehended. Imagine the societal transformation if dialogue returned to this sacred form. At this juncture, you might be contemplating whether reversing this decline is even feasible, or if society is condemned to descend further into foolishness with each passing generation. These are pertinent inquiries that warrant serious deliberation. History demonstrates that civilizations rise and fall, and that knowledge is often lost before it is rediscovered. Yet, history also reveals that revitalization is perpetually within reach. The Renaissance, for instance, emerged from the so-called Dark Ages, revitalizing the wisdom of ancient Greece and Rome while inaugurating novel modes of thought. Could we be on the precipice of another intellectual awakening? The answer hinges not on those in power, but on us. It depends on individuals who select profoundness over diversion, bravery over conformity, and sagacity over noise. For the erosion of intelligence is not predetermined, it is a collective choice made daily. And just as decline is a choice, so too is resurgence. Bear with me for a moment, as in the upcoming segment, we're going to delve into the most crucial realization of all. This particular understanding effectively binds everything, illuminating not only the continuous dumbing down of society, but also outlining how you can distinguish yourself, recover your intellect, and lead a genuinely insightful life amidst a world steeped in deception. We've traversed numerous factors contributing to society's apparent daily intellectual decline. The deluge of superficial data, the manipulation of focus, the decay of educational standards, the dominance of amusement over sagacity, and the subtle benefits power derives from a scattered and fragmented populace. However, We now confront the apex of understanding, an insight capable of transforming your perception of yourself and your role in existence. The primary peril isn't society's intellectual diminishment. The paramount risk lies in potentially accepting this trend as unavoidable. The actual misfortune isn't the external clamor, but the resultant internal quietude. It's the relinquishment of your inherent ability to ponder, to challenge, and to elevate yourself beyond the prevailing mediocrity. Historically, profound knowledge has never been a possession of the masses. It has consistently been safeguarded by the select individuals who dared to lead unconventional lives. Socrates faced a death sentence for questioning the fundamental beliefs of his era. Galileo was compelled into silence for unveiling realities that imperiled established power structures. Martin Luther King Jr. endured persecution for envisioning fairness in a globe organized around segregation. In every epoch, the general populace leaned towards ease and familiarity.